We've sort of created a religious culture based on behaviors. Have you noticed this? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it is definitely a part of our culture. We focus on a lot of do's and don'ts. Do read your scriptures daily. Don't drink coffee. Do certain things on Sunday. Don't break the law of chastity, etc. This is typical for any religious culture, but it might be even more so with our Latter-day Saint tradition, which might be why so many Christians not of our faith think we don't believe in grace. We've taken the thou shalt nots to a whole new level that we sometimes appear to be trying to earn our way into the arms of Christ's love. Of course, on paper, we know this isn't the case, and therefore we give grace a nod and a smile, and then rush back to white-knuckling our way to earn a temple recommend by demonstrating the right behaviors. This message isn't meant to downplay the importance of good behaviors or keeping the commandments or justifying bad behavior. The point of this message is to give us a moment to consider why we, as lay leaders in this gospel, try so hard to teach others that in order to arrive at our salvation, we must do so with the steering wheel of behavior. If we can just get the youth to behave in a righteous manner, we can get them to qualify for the temple recommend, which will then lead to a mission, which will then lead to temple marriage, which will then allow them to become more like our Father in heaven. If we can just get the inactive family to challenge their behaviors on Sunday and to start attending church with us, maybe they will get to the temple and be sealed as an eternal family so that they can then become more like their Father in heaven. Or as the bishop works with the middle-aged father struggling with pornography addiction, he constantly reminds the father that he needs to change this disappointing behavior so that he can become the father he should be. In these familiar examples, do you see the pattern? It is clear that the journey of this life is meant to lead us to become closer to what our Father in heaven is. And on that journey, it will take various course corrections to reach that goal. However, when we consider what needs to be corrected, we default to correcting behavior before anything else. Of course, healthy behavior needs to be in line in order to progress in mortality. But we fail to realize that behaviors are the result of feelings, and feelings are the result of thoughts, and thoughts can be manipulated in so many negative ways when the adversary leverages trauma, shame, and self-doubt to alter our thoughts, which then alter our behaviors. For example, an individual might meet with the bishop regularly about pornography addiction. They come in week after week and they feel awful when they confess relapse after relapse. The bad behavior is obvious, so the bishop tries to influence that behavior with more accountability, tougher filtering software, and removing access to ordinances. However, the adversary has us beat because he isn't focusing on behavior. He is focusing on creating thoughts around trauma, shame, and self-doubt. Do you remember how your mother hated you when you were a child? She'd hate to find out how you're sinning this way. You've never really been worthy of the priesthood, even when you baptized your daughter. The bishop said you only had to avoid porn for 7 days to take the sacrament, and you couldn't even make it to 3 days. The more trauma and emotional scarring an individual has in life, the deeper the void is in their hearts that stores these emotional thoughts. This becomes the devil's playground. These thoughts feed their bad behavior, and they return to the bishop's office each time to only hear more talk about poor behavior that then gives the adversary more material to work with to create negative thoughts. And the cycle goes on and on and on. So what's a leader to do? First, realize that the adversary is leveraging a stronger tool than you. Second, let's start talking about the void in their hearts long before we bring up the disappointing behavior. How's this done? For many, it requires a really good professional therapist to work in tandem with the bishop to uncover and treat the void. For others, it simply requires the bishop to set aside the topic of what behavior took place and talk more about what has caused trauma, shame, and self-doubt in their life that causes one to think and feel in a way that leads to action they later regret. Let's remove the stigma of the bishop's office by talking less about restrictions, disappointments, and bad behavior. Instead, let's invite each individual into an office full of empathy and try to understand the void of his or her heart. Once we address the void, the behavior will take care of itself.